The ironclads of the Civil War era represented a major change in naval technology. From 1500 to 1860, naval commerce and warfare revolved around ships driven by the wind, and that period was called the Age of Sail. Before then, boats were normally propelled by rowing, but in the Age of Sail, the ships were powered by catching the wind, which drove the ships forward. This was changing by the time of the Civil War because of the arrival of the steam engine, which was made viable in the late 18th century by James Watt. Boats powered by steam engines began to appear, and Robert Fulton built the first commercially successful steamboat in 1807. By the time of the Civil War, many of the United States warships had steam engines to supplement their sail power. The steam engine made possible what had been impractical for many years, the ironclad. For centuries, man had tried to make a ship covered in iron, as it would be invulnerable to almost any attack. In Korea, England, and Japan, iron ships had been built, but they were impractical simply because of their weight. They were too heavy to be powered by oars or wind. In the early 1800s, with the invention of the steamboat, plans were drawn up that began to look practical. The Stevens family of New Jersey began experimenting with wooden ships covered in iron. The ship was still not completed when the Civil War came, and after having spent over $10 million in modern dollars, the government decided to cancel the project. The Stevens battery was a revolutionary design, but it was too far ahead of its time to actually be completed. The United States was not the only nation working on an ironclad. In 1854, the French and British built several floating batteries for use against the Russians in the Crimean War. They were put to use in 1855, and in their limited service they proved to be successful. In 1859, the French built an ironclad frigate called La Gloire. It was 250 feet long, carried 38 cannon, was covered in over 4 inches of iron, and it could travel at 12 knots. Britain, in an attempt to keep up with France, built the Warrior in 1860, the largest ironclad up to that point in time. By 1862, Britain and France had 16 ironclads completed or under construction, and Austria, Italy, Russia, and Spain were building them as well. By the 1860s, most naval authorities recognized that ironclads were the future of naval technology. Although ironclads had never been involved in a ship-to-ship battle, most people recognized what would happen. They guessed that the ironclads would be much more powerful than the wooden ships making up the fleets of all nations. Gideon Welles, Secretary of the Navy, sent his report to Congress in July 1861.
Much attention has been given within the last few years to the subject of floating batteries or ironclad steamers. Other governments, and particularly France and England, have made it a special object in connection with naval improvements, and the ingenuity and inventive faculties of our own countrymen have also been stimulated by the recent occurrences toward the construction of this class of vessel.
The one thing that no one knew would be what would happen when 2 ironclads fought. Would one be able to sink the other? Or would they be evenly matched, unable to inflict any damage on the other?